Hi, I'm Dr. Gemma, and welcome back to Cognitive, the Knitting Psychology podcast. Cheerfully and somewhat irregularly in business since 2008. Segments today may include what's on my hooks, needles, and spindles, a strategy, something I really like, put a lid on it, oh shoot, and blather. So sit back, put your feet up, pick up your knitting, crocheting, spinning, weaving, or dyeing, or any other yarny thing you're doing, and get ready to enjoy. Well, hello, it's Dr. Gemma, and this is episode 91 of Cognitive. Quite the frog in my throat. Welcome back. I am just happy to be here on this lovely Monday night, August 15th of 2022. Can you believe we're at episode 91 already? I'm a little shocked I'm doing Cognitive again, let alone that I've made it 91 more times again. So that's nice. And that leads me to remind you that comments are welcome either on the blog page at cognitivepodcast.blogspot.com. Please don't forget the K in cognitive. And also on our group on Ravelry. I would like to put out my warm thanks to those of you who are commenting. Tiny shiny things, I know you commented and I can't remember where I saw the comment, so I'm afraid I'm not going to answer it as well as I could, but you were mentioning discussing grief and loss strategies. Okie dokie, we will be back to that. That's a big one, but it's a good one to do. And it's good to go back and talk about all that. So thank you for the comment. I also want to thank DC Elaine Knits. Elaine, those comments about ironing and steaming acrylic instead of trying to get it all wet and flatten it out, that makes so much sense to me. When I was working on that scarf, I kept having the instinct that all I needed to do was hang it up and steam it. I think there's some sense we get, through the universe if you've done enough spinning and knitting and blocking and whatnot. So thank you for that. I think your point that I could have just steamed it and ironed it, I think you're exactly right. I think it would have been a lot more worthwhile. But thank you. SMP, Single Mom Power. Thank you for posting your finished objects to the group. I just realized that people are posting finished objects to our group, and I hadn't been attending to that. So you've got a bunch of them. There's a few of you, and I'll try to get back to this in later episodes to acknowledge you. But I wanted to say, Single Mom Power, I did really like that twine bag. I thought that was a pretty wonderful thing. Then we have a late-breaking one from Elise T. Thank you so much for your generous coffee. That, my friend, was not just a coffee. That was a whole pot of coffee, and I really appreciate it. The podcast doesn't cost a lot to make, to be brutally honest. But lately, we've had a few strange costs. So thank you for helping to defray the publication costs. I really do appreciate it, but it doesn't cost a lot. And thank you. I really do appreciate the coffees. You folks have been very, very generous about that. COVID, well, interesting thing. My vet is doing all the COVID protocols, and the rest of the world is not. We took Queenie to the veterinarian to get her baby shots, and everybody was masked up, and they were enforcing it. So that was nice. I think you got to take the veterinarians seriously, that their patients can't talk, can't complain, can't do anything. So vets have to be the sort of mouthpiece of medical logic in the office, because the patient isn't going to explain what their problem is. The vet just has to do a lot of guessing and laying down of boundaries. So take it seriously. The vets are masked up here in North LA County. Please remember you can get your kids their shots. Please remember you can get an electronic COVID card here in Los Angeles County. That link is in the show note, and there's a link for your free COVID tests from the government. What's on my hooks and needles? Well, I haven't finished anything, but I'm sort of climbing the wall working on crochet. I am, of course, working on the Don't Know Yet blanket, and September 4th will be 250 blocks if I'm actually doing this the way I said I would do it, one a day. I think I'm 2 or 3 blocks ahead of that now. but we'll just say September 4th, which is my birthday, is also 250 blocks day. October 25th will be 300 blocks day. So I'm really quite looking forward to that, but I got a little burned out. So of course I started crocheting a cardigan because I had all this yarn sitting in the box. And you may remember one of the goals of this summer was to empty this cardboard box of all its packaged yarn and get it out of here. That would work great, except I keep throwing more yarn into it because it's convenient. And so I keep starting projects with the yarn I'm throwing into it. So in case you're wondering, yes, the Wrapped in Tiny Chains cardigan is based on all these little skeins of the cashmere acrylic that I'd thrown into this box for who knows what reason, really. Probably when I was working on the Kansas Shrug, which I still highly recommend. Also, the Wrapped in Tiny Chains make a great shrug. You could use that for the same thing. Just make it the same width you made the Easy Summer Shrug, the Kansas Shrug as I'm calling it. Use the same width and go crazy. It's a lot of fun. You have to remember, when you're making a shrug, it's just a big rectangle. So find a pretty pattern, do a big rectangle. I think I just saw a good way to measure it, which is around your back from the middle of your one armpit to the middle of the other. It's a very easy thing to measure, and that came out about what I got when I was just measuring shoulder tip to shoulder tip and adding an inch. So it works very nicely, and you can make it as wide as you want to. Now if you're really going to do it the easy way, you just make a big rectangle long enough to go as far down your arms as you want, and you seam the sides. I don't do that. I measured myself from shoulder to shoulder where a set-in sleeve would hit. And I believe that was 17.5 inches. And then I just added an inch for ease, and it works really well on me. So if you're going to do a shrug, you can do it just long enough to go down your arms and seam the arms. Or you can do it my way, which is when I got out to that distance, I began to crochet in the round in double crochet to make the sleeves. So my sleeves are slightly different than the pattern across the back of the shrug. I really like that. I like to be able to see the difference in the sleeve. And so I do that. But do whatever you want. It's crochet, it's easy, and it's fancy. But anytime you find a good crochet rectangle pattern, remember, there is a shrug there waiting to happen. Well, anyway, so I was working on the Wrapped in Tiny Chains, and I was doing the back, and the back just went on endlessly because I made it very long, which I love. And so it's supposed to be 27.6 inches wide. Brits, I'm sorry, or non-American friends, I don't have the centimeters, but the pattern does. The pattern is available. It's free. You can get the link on Ravelry. It's called the Wrapped in Tiny Chains Cardigan by Crow Jennifer. And it's a pretty good pattern. It's pretty clear. I've been enjoying that about it. That back piece takes a long time. I'm surprised. Nothing in crochet takes a long time, but this one has. Fortunately, I finally finished the back, and you can see a picture of me wearing it draped across my front to get a sense of what this is going to look like. I'm really happy with it. I'm now working on one of the front panels. My back panel, I did the large. It's supposed to be 27.6 inches. I was supposed to get that in 58 rows. It took me about 53, 54. So what I would tell you with this, if you're going to crochet this is a great pattern. You just crochet the pieces and mattress stitch them together, or I may crochet them together. At any rate, doesn't matter how you join them in my humble opinion, but it does stretch in every direction. It's kind of a loose, lacy pattern. And you need to think about the measurements, not the row count. So just lay it out on the floor and measure it till you like the measurements you get. Even the creator warns you this is going to stretch. You will be able to see that when you make it. This is a very flexible pattern. It's very pretty. So anyway, I'm enjoying that. That's the Wrapped in Tiny Chains. And of course, as I was working on that and the Sunnybank scarf, I threw one of my skeins of Noro Silk Garden, very old stash. This stuff is easily, oh gosh, over 10 years old. And I threw that in with the Sunnybank scarf because I thought I was going to use it. Well, there it was sitting there in the box of doom from which all must be used up. So I went digging to find the rest of it. And this was primarily cream with just a breath of tan in it, which is a little unusual for Noro. But I had bought it in conjunction with another colorway that is grays and browns with a hint of cream. The darker one is $267. The lighter one is $269. And I thought they would all go together in a beautiful combination sweater or entrelac shawl or something. Well, they're going together in this. And so I'm doing the lane splitter skirt. This is from 2010 Knitty. And the link is in the show notes and in my Ravelry notes if you want to see it. It's a lot of fun. It's really easy. It's just a big rectangle. And every fourth row, you purl. And you're knitting back and forth. So what it really means is in one of the colorways, and I'll tell you now, it's going to be colorway B. Colorway B gets the purl row once every 4 rows. So you have 2 rows of A, 2 rows of B, and the second row of B is purled. Now what's really going on, you're on the wrong side and you're knitting. So it comes out as purled on the right side. However, when you do color A, you do have to purl it consciously on the right side to get the same effect. So what you get is you're knitting on the bias, and as you go, you're increasing for as many inches as you want the skirt to be long. So the right edge as you're knitting this, and remember you're knitting it like a triangle that gets wider and wider, but the right edge of this will be the length of the skirt. So my length looks like it's supposed to be 23. You do knit a waistband out of a spare skein of a 100% cotton and wrap it around elastic. And you don't use this yarn for that. You don't use the Noro. You use just a cotton yarn for it. So I should get 23 inches below where it falls on my waist. And that seems about right for my size. Also, you knit it with just a little bit of negative ease because a knit skirt, you only wear that to show your curves, let's be honest. This is a really interesting thing. She wants you to take only one colorway of Noro and divide it at different places on the striping sequence, and then use one part for color A and a different part for color B. What I'm doing is saying I would like the darker color as the background because it has more variation, and I'm just using the lighter color to make the purled rows. So I'm getting these raised ridges that are like white stripes across the variegation stripes of the other colorway. I'm enjoying this immensely. It is fascinating to watch it grow. I can't tell if I like it or I hate it. That is almost always a really good sign. But it's a fun knit. It's just going to be a big rectangle. You seam it down one side and then you knit the circular waistband and fold it around elastic and sew it down. I assume you could probably just knit through 2 layers to make that happen. At any rate, I'll get there. But it's a lot of fun. You can see the colorways I'm using. And the white colorway is not that white. There are bits of beige and brown in it, but in that picture it comes out looking white. So that is the lane splitter skirt and the wrapped in tiny chains cardigan. I am very sporadically carrying around socks, the midsummer socks, to knit when I'm away from home. And of course I'm continuing the Don't Know Yet. I hit a nice moment with the Bright Cherries brick where I realized, yes, I am done. Twin Face is not getting it. And I'm just basically, as Hamlet would say, screwing my courage to the sticking point to simply rip it out and reskein it and use it later. I just got tired of carrying it around with me everywhere and feeling sad about it. And so I'm just going to recycle the yarn. Moving right along, I sure would like to finish something, so I am evilly thinking about that beautiful Malabrigo Mecha bulky I got in the colorway Hojas, which, since this is Espanol, it's actually H-A-A, okay, H-O-J-A-S. Can she do it? H-A-O-J-A-S-A, I believe is how it's spelled. Been a long time since I did the alphabet in Espanol, but there you go. I keep thinking about doing a hat in that because I did get a second skein of it, yeah, on sale from Webs. Thank you. because I had that one skein and I could not get back to L'Atelier to pick up the second skein. Why I bought only one skein instead of two when I knew I'd be making a hat, who can say? But they are beautiful, and I'm looking forward to burning through them as well. My rule of thumb is if I buy new yarn, I try to use it right away, because again, we're trying to dig through the stash. Okay, so what else is going on? Well, let's roll into a strategy, shall we? Tiny Shiny Thing said a really nice thing. She said, you really seem to live the things you teach us. That's a really kind comment, and I really try to. And you have to remember, though, I'm not teaching you an ideal. I'm teaching you what healthy people do. So in other words, all this cognitive behavioral stuff, there's really sort of two levels of it. On one level, I'm teaching you straight up strategy. But on another level, I'm hoping that if you get enough straight up strategy, that when you are in distress, you will problem solve using these strategies. So if I'm upset, what could I use to relieve my distress right now? And the acronyms accepts, improve, and all that. Radical acceptance that whatever's going on, it may not be my fault, but I still have to manage it. So I'm going to face it head on, etc. And by the way, that's also a bit of an answer to how do I deal with grief and loss. There are a few special strategies, but I will tell you number one on the list would be the strategies I've taught you. Accepts the acronym, but yes, acceptance is a part of the process, and improve. And I will try to come back to that. I will try to circle back. I'm sort of running low on what I'm doing right now, which is just basic emotional management from day to day. However, there's at least one more, and that is knowing what motivates you. It is remarkable how many times people just say, oh, I tried that strategy, it didn't work for me. And you ask them, well, what do you think went wrong? They said, I don't even care about that. Okay, so for example, if I'm teaching you get back into your body, do sensory stuff for distress, or I'm teaching you for emotional management, routine daily management, we're talking about moving your body, and you say, oh, well, you're a runner, I hate running. By the way, when you're a runner, and I am a career runner, you hear that 6 or 7 times a week. Somebody feels it's necessary to walk up to you, knowing you're a runner, and volunteer, I tried running and I really hate it. Like you're somehow supposed to defend the whole sport. And the answer is no, but you need to know what motivates you, not what motivates me. That there is something about running where after about a mile, I'm in my body and I start to feel just fantastic. And I have so many memories of running and just having these beautiful sort of crystal moments where I was running and the whole world was suddenly insanely beautiful, and I felt at one with it, and I felt really wonderful as I ran. Not everybody gets that. And by the way, that's not runner's high. Runner's high is where you really feel euphoric. I've gotten that too. But sometimes you're just at one with what you're doing. I'm looking at a picture on the screen of my computer from Yosemite, from the area close to Tuolumne Meadows, where I was hiking towards Unicorn, towards a mountain called the Unicorn. And I'm at Unicorn Creek, and I'm looking at this picture that I took in the direction of the water flow. And I look at it, and again, I have this crystal moment that I can remember that moment so clearly. And it was just this moment of just exalted beauty where I felt so at peace and at one with the universe. So again, not everybody's going to get that, folks. So running motivates me. That doesn't mean I expect it to motivate you. Yosemite motivates me. I realize if it motivated everybody, the campground would be crowded all the time. Although you'd be surprised how many people apparently it does motivate in the summer. Based on the crowds I saw, particularly in the western side of Yosemite. The point is, you have to learn what makes you tick, what makes you go. So the extreme example, get somebody who's depressed. And when you're really clinically depressed, it's very hard to find anything that makes you go. But there is the kind of irritable, depressed person where they have more ennui than straight up depression. They're bored, they're restless. We've seen a huge amount of this with the quarantine and the pandemic, where all these people have come into therapy and they say, oh, I'm so depressed. But when you talk to them, you realize they're bored and they don't know what to do, because we had so much freedom and so much mobility. Well, at least in my neck of the woods. I can't say that for everybody, to be honest. But here in Southern California, if you're healthy and you're not disabled in any motor sense, we have a lot of freedom and mobility. Sure, we have lousy public transit, but we do have it. We have bikes, we have motorcycles, we have e-bikes, we have all sorts of ways, motorized skateboards, I keep seeing those all the time. We have all sorts of ways to get around. And when we suddenly were supposed to stay home, a lot of us did not know what to do with all that time at home. And some people became workaholics, and some corporations tried to demand workaholism, that if you're home, you got to use your commute time to serve us as well, which is insane. But the reality is, a lot of people just did not know what to do at home. Also, there's a lot of good reasons for that. Some people are in very small homes. Some people are in little tiny apartments. It's pretty easy for me, sitting here on a 5-acre farm with livestock to work with, dogs to train, 5 acres to run around on, literally, and all sorts of labor. I can always go out and shovel horse poop, if nothing else. So it's easy for me to have things to do. Not even mentioning my indoor hobbies. But if you're living in a 1-bedroom apartment or a studio, yeah, you're going to start climbing the walls. So you really do need to find what you like. And you really should sit down and catalog it in your head. An excellent place to start is the Women's Comfort Book by Jennifer Loudon. And I've had this before in my notes, where she talks about ways to comfort yourself. But in many ways, she's talking about ways to get busy. So she talks about taking a walk in nature, riding your bike, going for a walk where you use only one sense and try to examine the world. So everything is about touch or scent. She talks about journaling. She talks about physical activities like hiking and running, if you like those things. She talks about hot baths and showers and massage and reading books and watching movies and coloring books and all sorts of wonderful things. That's a good starting place, but you really should consider sitting down and writing a list of the things that you like, things that motivate you. Now, here's the exciting thing. You can use them for rewards. One of the reasons rich people get bored is they can do whatever they want whenever they want it. And actually, humans like a slight amount of challenge. So, it's why do people climb Mount Everest? They're enjoying the challenge. They want to try something that pushes them. So if you can have anything you want at any time you want, yeah, you do get bored. Ennui, as the French say. So, you do need to sit down and figure out what challenges you. So I'll talk to a patient, and then they have ennui. They have the boredom level. And they're just resistant through the whole discussion. You say, well, here's what we tell people to do when they're unhappy. And they go, oh, I don't like doing that. To everything you say. I mean, seriously, you get to a point where you're thinking, breathing. Do you like breathing? But they don't like anything. Now, part of that is a reactivity. They don't really mean what they say. I have gotten a few times over the years, oh, you therapists, you're all smug. You think you have the answers to everything. Actually, that's not true. I'm smug. That's who I am. You can call me Smog if you're fond of me. I also would like to hoard a pile of gold in a mountain someday. However, I am smug about some things. My ego is not small. But the reality is, it's not that I think I know the answer to everything, but I have spent 30 years reading the research about what works for people. And whenever you go to therapy, it's not about what the therapist knows. It's about where you and the therapist meet in the middle, that I am the expert on managing mental health, and you are the expert on you, on what you like, on who you are, on the things that make you crazy, on the way you like to have conversations. So you're not going to agree with everything I say, but I also don't know you. I'm doing my best to guess. I'm trying to watch you and respond to you in a receptive way, and I'm doing my best guess. So good therapy happens when you and the therapist meet in the middle, where you're using what the therapist tells you and you're saying, but here's what will work for me there. Here's what will not. And the therapist has to be responsive. The therapist has to say, oh, I see this did not work for you. We have this other thing. Have you considered this? That is never going to work if you don't know what you like, if you don't know what drives you and motivates you. Once you have that list of what motivates you, and mine is probably 300 or 400 items last time I checked, but once you have that, you don't actually need a therapist. You need to use that as your reward system. So after I see 3 patients, I like to have free time. So I do my notes for those 3 patients right away. Why? Because when I finish my day, I know I don't want to feel like I have to do 6 notes. I want to feel like, oh, this is easy. I can do this really quickly and I'll be done for the night. So getting all my notes done is actually a big motivator for me. Why? Because I was a person who didn't get my notes done for the first years of my profession. And you know what? It makes life miserable. As one of my patients said when I taught her how to get it done on time, getting all your notes done at the end of the day is life-changing. So that's very motivating, that you end your week feeling like everything's under control and you can manage whatever you need to manage, whatever you need to get done. It's very life-changing for me. That may not motivate a lot of my colleagues, apparently, based on the things I hear from the supervising people. But you do need to know, like, okay, what if I see 3 patients and then I get a snack? And the snack hopefully is healthy because I see 2 sets of 3 patients every working day. What if I get, after my first 3 patients, when my notes are done, I get to take a walk, eating a sandwich as I go. So I get to get outside, get fresh air, stretch my legs. What if I get 5 minutes of yoga or 5 minutes of meditation or 5 minutes of general stretching? What if I get 5 minutes on my phone? What if I get 1 game of Klondike solitaire? Whatever. You need to find out what will you work for, and then you use it that way. If you simply give yourself unmitigated breaks where you just say, I feel like playing solitaire, and you play it for like 6 hours, it starts to lose its meaning. It starts to lose its value to you. My father used to have this saying that I didn't particularly like and I don't agree with, but praise is like diamonds. It owes its value to its scarcity. I don't actually agree with that. I think when somebody does something good, you should praise them. I think that's a healthy response. However, the idea that scarcity makes value is the way you can look at this situation. So maybe rewards are like diamonds. They owe their value to their scarcity. If you keep giving yourself all the rewards without ever making yourself work for them, you won't have rewards. Okay, so you need to know what are your rewards and what works for you. The reason is this is basic behaviorism. This could be called emotional management as a strategy, but I have to be honest, it's basic behaviorism. That, well, I have to be careful what I say here. I was going to talk about the marital aspect, but maybe I won't. But look, if I say I'm going to go grocery shopping, but while I'm at the grocery store, they have this smoothie I like. So when I finish shopping, I'll buy the smoothie and I can drink it on the way home. I used to do that when I went to Trader Joe's a lot. Or I'll go out and run errands. I did that yesterday. And after 3 or 4 trips, I say, now I can go to Starbucks and get an iced tea. Or now I can go and get lunch at Chipotle. So I will use that as a motivator, as a reward to get me out the door and to get me to do my errands. Okay, so yeah, it's true. I like food. But I also like exercise, stretching, biking, all sorts of nice things. So think about what's going to drive you. And basically, yeah, this is no different than teaching Queenie to sit. I hold a treat in my hand, I say sit. When she does what I want her to do, she gets the reward. Same for me. When I do what I need to do, I get the reward. Basic behaviorism. Fluffy books. I'm not really doing anything right now. I'm just actually listening to the Finishing School series by Gail Carriger because I'm trying to set them back in context. I read her novellae that are the sequel to Finishing School, and all of it was out of context. So I wanted to sort of skim the novella again and get it all kind of back into context. I really like Gail Carriger. She writes really fun series. I don't like it when she gets into the 20th century, which she does a little bit of. I'm much happier reading steampunk fantasy. But there we go. However, even though we are a little impoverished here in the fluffy books and the dizzy blondes and such. We are not impoverished in something I really like and put a lid on it. That's kind of what's been going on this week. Something I really like, well, first of all, I picked up an iPhone memory stick on Amazon. I think it was $19 and it's 1 terabyte. What I really like about it is one end is the iOS plug that just fits into your phone plug, your charger plug. And the other end is a USB. And that makes me so insanely happy because basically you can use this memory stick on a laptop, a PC, that is, or on anything iOS. And with 1 terabyte, probably I'm never going to fill it, and I'm keeping it exclusively for photos. Now, my phone has a lot of room for photos. I bought an SE, an iPhone SE, and I maxed out the memory to like 256. However, I sometimes get nervous about it, and I delete photos, and it's very rare for me to have to, but now I don't. That what's better than a 256K memory? 1 terabyte. So I'm looking at this little stick, and my original thought was, well, see, I'll load it from my iPhone, and then I'll put it safely into my 4 terabyte external drive, which I may still do. Then I looked at it and said, it's got a whole terabyte. Photos take nothing. I mean, what are they, like 12K? So I thought, this is amazing. I may never fill this thing. So it is its own storage unit. I don't need to load it into my 4 terabyte backup, although I suspect I will. This comes with its own software, and frankly, I think it's a Chinese knockoff. That's why I'm not telling you a brand name. What I would say is go to Amazon if you want one of these. Yeah, it doesn't even have a brand name marked on it. That's kind of scary. But go to Amazon and do your price comparisons and shopping. Let me see, I'm reaching for its little manual written by someone for whom English is clearly not a first language, which makes me think I might be looking at Chinese knockoff. Yeah, this is just called Universal Flash Drive, compatible for iOS. LUV, Love Share for iOS Device. I don't know what the name is. You figure it out. But I'm really enjoying just backing up my iPhone because now I feel like I'm getting rid of pictures with impunity. The other thing I really like this week is camping food at home. And I'm going to explain that with put a lid on it. Put a lid on it. First of all, I had an exciting week because I mastered my air fryer. And I have an air fryer lid for my 8-quart Instant Pot. And, we got it for Christmas. My husband bought it for me last year or the year before, my request. And then basically we became afraid of it and put it in a cupboard thinking, explosions, hot oil, blah, blah, blah. No, that's not what air fryers do. I have to tell you, this thing is ridiculously easy to use. It's very clear how to use it, instructions all over the internet. And I decided I wanted to make air fryer jalapeno poppers. The menu is from Key Lime, I believe it was called, and I have some modifications, so I put my menu up. I changed it a little bit. And frankly, this is, you make bacon in the air fryer. Ooh la la. I put it on 400. I did not preheat it, which apparently you should do. Put the bacon in 10 minutes. The air fryer stops at the 5-minute mark, and you've got 3 minutes to take the lid off, turn everything, and put the lid back on. If you don't make it in 3 minutes, it resets to 0. Otherwise, it continues on for the rest of its timer. So if you make the bacon that way, 400 degrees, 10 minutes, you get uber crispy bacon, which crumbles beautifully into your mix for what you're going to stuff those jalapenos with. What was I stuffing them with? The bacon, cream cheese that was softened, and I cubed it to make it even easier to mush. Grated cheddar. I use Trader Joe's cheddar that is, I can't remember if it's a Gloucestershire, I think, and it's got minced chive and onion in it. And that saved me from having to add those things. You can use a little salt. You can use a little black pepper. Black pepper really ups the heat. Salt, if you're using a cheddar, you probably don't need salt, frankly. Okay, so this is as easy as it gets. You just mash together the crumbled bacon, the cream cheese, the cheddar, and salt and pepper as much as you use them. Any other spice you might want to throw in. Mash that all up, and then you just put on kitchen gloves and slice your jalapenos. And you want to get all the seeds and ribbing out because they'll be hot enough, trust me. And then you stuff it with those other things, and then you stick them in the air fryer. I do believe the air fryer was 350 degrees Fahrenheit, and 2 batches to get through 5 full jalapenos. I had to do it in 2 batches because it just doesn't all fit in that. 8 minutes. The cheese should be melted. The jalapeno should be softened. I got mine just a little blackened, and I really like that effect. Now you're saying, but Gemma, you said something you really like is camping food at home. Well, why was I even messing with my Instant Pot? Well, when we were in the saga last week of the detached retina, and I had to go down every day, I was driving like 4 hours a day, carting people hither and yon, and then I would come home to the farm. And a day into that, I realized we had all this meat defrosted. I'm not sure why. So I started cooking it all. I cooked pulled pork, and then I cooked a lot of French garlic chicken. There is a link to my French garlic chicken recipe. There is a picture of the chicken sitting in the Instant Pot, actually sauteing. The French garlic chicken, so easy, it's mind-blowing. You're mixing olive oil, herbes de Provence, spicy brown mustard, minced garlic, any salt and pepper you want, and a little bit of apple cider vinegar. And go to the recipe for proportions. But you mince those together, you whisk it, then you let the chicken lie in it for about an hour, and then you scrape all that off the chicken, and you're going to saute the chicken with a lot of garlic, minced garlic, and butter in your Instant Pot. When that has all sauteed beautifully together, you put the rest of the marinade back in with it. You add just a little touch of water, close the lid, 10 minutes on manual. Couldn't be easier. When that's done, you let it depressurize. I think she says 20 minutes. I just let it depressurize naturally. You lift the chicken out. You thicken the sauce with cream. You can cook it on saute to make it cook fast, make it thicken if you'd like. I usually don't. Ooh la la. All right, so I made a whole lot of stuff. I made pulled pork. We had these little round steaks, little sirloin fillets, and there were 4 of them per pack from Trader Joe's. And I sliced those up, actually. I don't think you're supposed to. And I sauteed them with onions in the Instant Pot, and then I cooked them with barbecue sauce, and you can use either tomato or a cup of Diet Coke in my case. What you need is an acid. I've done it both ways, tastes great. And I cooked that for like 100 minutes to get nice and soft and squishy. Then I sliced orange and red pepper into it. I chopped it into it. And a little bit of chopped onion and a little bit of chopped broccoli. And I put it back in the Instant Pot. And I brought it up to pressure and then stopped. All that went into a freezer bag. It actually went into a vacuum sealed bag, which went into the freezer. So I made a couple of those. And I made the French garlic chicken, and when they were cooked, again, I cooled it down, and then I put that in vacuum-sealed bags. And I also made pulled pork, and that went into vacuum-sealed bags, the stuff I didn't eat. So frankly, every day I'm pulling out one of those babies and just cutting it open with some kitchen scissors and pouring it into the Instant Pot, bringing it up to pressure. Sometimes I cook it for 1 minute to make sure it's really, really hot. So I am really enjoying what I think of as my camping kitchen. This is how I ate when I was in Yosemite. I just took all this frozen food that I had vacuum sealed with me, and I really didn't have to worry about ice. I used it as ice for a lot of the week I was up there. And as it defrosted, whatever was the most defrosted, I ate that night for dinner using my camp stove. So yeah, everybody else is cooking hot dogs and marshmallows, and I was having this insanely delicious salad with homemade blue cheese dressing that I kept cool in the ice from all my frozen vacuum sealed foods, and I was having French garlic chicken or butter chicken or whatever with it. So I happen to think it's really fun. Look, when you have leftover meat in the fridge, just make sure you get it into the Instant Pot, you get it cooked. You don't have to work really hard, just some sort of dump and go recipe. And then get it into your vacuum sealer and stick it in your freezer, and voila, instant dinner prep. If you're wondering about those poppers, meanwhile, there are pictures of them uncooked and cooked, so you can see the difference. Let's get on to the blather, shall we? ASL, oh my gosh. Whew, 1 week from tonight, I'm nervous, but I'm ready. I have the big screen attached to my laptop. I have mastered using Zoom on it. This week I have to go back to the campus website and figure out their Zoom, because they apparently have some version you need to use. But I'm really looking forward to that. So a week from tonight, I will be doing ASL. Apparently it's a total immersion class. This should be pretty exciting. The pup date, well, Queenie and Captain in blanks. There's a picture of Queenie just being magnificent there. If you'd love to see her prettiness. She has been bonded. The three girls are so bonded. They're so happy together. They want to do everything together. If one of them gets separated, you'll hear, ooh, ooh, ooh. Not just from Queenie. Blankets and Captain will cry. Captain is the primary babysitter, and she has matured overnight because of this. Now, it is funny because there are days where Captain begs to come into my study and have me close the door so she can get away from Queenie. She will come in here and lie next to me. The problem chewing seems to have stopped. She just got over it. In fact, now she's snitching. When Queenie chews, Captain will bark. This afternoon I had them on the hardwood floor in the living room. I walked out for a minute and Captain started roaring and barking. Queenie had peed. That was Captain snitching. Captain still corrects her. If Queenie starts biting me, Captain will immediately mouth her neck. Captain will put Queenie's whole neck into her mouth from a side angle and just tell her to stop. At one point, in the very beginning, Queenie hurt me to the point where I cried out. Captain literally dragged her off me. It's a very newfie sort of thing to do, and as much as Captain acts like a border collie, she is still 3/4 noof, and you can see she's got those instincts too. So, Captain is now the nanny dog. Blankets is enjoying it, but Blankets just gets exhausted sometimes. She is basically 80 in dog years. But everybody is getting along. It's been very, very sweet. We did take Queenie to the vet. We finally got to the vet and started her over on her series of 3 puppy shots because it had been so long since she had them. She was very due for them the week that she arrived, and I didn't think to take her. And then the next week was Hub's retina, so here we are. So the vet just started them over. So we'll be doing, 2 more trips, and then she gets her rabies vax when she's 6 months, and she gets neutered when she's about 8 months. So, and yes, she is on a limited registration with the American Kennel Club, which means she can't be bred. At least her puppies cannot be registered. And I really don't like it when people do that and then breed the dog and don't register the puppies. That's how you get shelters full of unloved dogs and unappreciated dogs. Because, a breeder who's doing that is not taking care of their dog. They're not breeding properly. They're not selecting complementary traits. They're not researching bloodlines to make sure there's no genetic problems. And it bugs me because every time I adopt a dog, I worry that I'm encouraging those breeders. I mean, it's really kind of a no-win. Because you really do want to adopt dogs. I mean, shelter dogs many of them make great pets. I mean, I've had a few. And of course, at this point I was laughing because Blankets is from a rescue, Minerva is from a rescue, and Captain is a crossbreed that was rescued so that she didn't have to go to a shelter. I mean, look, I've got 4 house pets and 3 of them are rescues. Obviously, I have a certain amount of sympathy for adopt, don't shop. But I also have to say, I don't want the breeds to go out. It really matters that Captain acts like a newfie and a border collie. It really matters that Queenie acts like a collie. Speaking of which, if you ever want a cat in a dog suit, may I recommend collies or Shetland sheepdogs, which are miniature collies. Our Sheltie Devon was a cat in a dog suit. Eleanor was a cat in a dog suit. And Queenie is a cat in a dog suit. Elkhounds, Norwegian elkhounds, they also can be very cat-like. They are self-cleaning. The funny thing about Queenie, though, Queenie has long, white, elegant forelegs. In fact, she has long, white, elegant hind legs. She's got a lot of white on her. And collies are famous for washing their forelegs, keeping their white feet clean. Well, not Queenie. And I'm shocked at how I'm not used to it. That when I see her dirty forepaws, I'm thinking, how did that happen? Because Eleanor would fastidiously clean herself. Well, Queenie is 100% Queenie. She is her own person. By the way, the great ear raising. Collies are supposed to have what's called tipped ears. That is rough and smooth collies, not border collies. I don't know if border collies have tipped ears. Anyway, but the old Scottish collies have tipped ears, which means the very tip of their ear bends over just a little bit. Eleanor had it naturally. It looked terrific. It makes breeders go crazy because it is hard to get. Well, Queenie at this point, her left ear is tipped, her right ear is straight up. You gotta love it. Now, there is a thing collie people do where it's called taping the ears, where you just tape them into place with a very, very minor weight, like a toilet paper roll. And I can always tell. When you look at a collie, you can always tell if its ears were taped. It doesn't look the way Eleanor's ears looked. So no, of course I'm not doing that. I'm not breeding her and I'm not taping her ears. I'm not doing any other silly thing. She's not a show dog. She is a well-loved farm dog. Does she have herding instinct? Oh, yeah. Who else has herding instinct? Captain. Captain was out in the backyard with my son and Queenie. Queenie and my son started chasing each other. Captain did not want the big boy chasing her puppy. So she herded him, and she turned him, and she pushed him in one direction, and then she drove him, and then she stopped him, and then she held him. It was magnificent. I'm thinking I might go find a herding place. I know there's one over in Camarillo somewhere. And I may go over and see if we can get her working at herding because she was so natural. She knew exactly what to do. Also, Captain instinctively understands the commands. This is her 1/4 border collie at work. Newfies don't usually do this. So if Minerva jets out the back door, particularly in the dark, you know, black cat, dark yard, coyotes, yeah. Captain now knows that I want to catch her. So Captain launched after her about 2 weeks ago. And I, without thinking, I said, Captain, hold her. And Captain did it. Captain understood immediately what I wanted. She got in front of Minerva, and when Minerva tried to get past her, Captain just gently leaned on her and held her down until I could get there and pick her up. Minerva, for her part, has figured this one out. When she sees Captain coming, she now freezes because she is aware that the dog will lean on her or mouth her to stop her. Has Captain ever hurt Minerva? Are you kidding? First of all, she's a herding dog. But secondly, she's got a Newfie mouth, which means they're soft-mouthed. They can grab things and they don't squeeze or pierce with their teeth. So if you're ever going to have a dog that's going to stop your cat, you want a soft-mouthed Newfie who's sharing her body with a border collie who just understands intuitively what she's being told to do. Meanwhile, I have said it before, but I'll say it again. My husband was due to have weekly check-ins with his retina surgeons. They saw him today, and they said he doesn't have to come back for a month because his improvement is so noteworthy. So, boy, are we happy. Boy, is he relieved. It just looks like everything's going really well. On the calendar, Stitches, yes, Stitches SoCal, November 11th through 13th. I expect to be there at least on the 13th. I was going to take time off in September. I've had so much time off recently, I'm thinking I won't until November. I may take the entire Stitches, but I don't know because there are mountains I have to visit in the autumn. We'll think about it. In the meantime, we are on schedule to go to the Grand Canyon June 5th through 9th of 2023. I am looking at Sunnybank August 17th through 21st of 2023. And Minerva gets the last word. There is a picture of her being House Panther looking at my bacon snack that my husband made for me. And it is good at this moment to remind you that no matter how much Captain herds her, no matter how many times Queenie bounces up to her and scares the mud out of her by trying to play, no matter what you do or say, everything belongs to the cat. And Minerva would like you to know that she owns the world, everything is hers. On that happy note, I'm going to say it's been a delight sharing some time with you. Please remember, social distance. Wear your mask if you're in close quarters. Wash your hands. Get your boosters. Will you please get your shots updated? Don't get COVID. Really, it's miserable. Even these variants that are going around now, just don't. And while we're at it, everybody, stay safe, take care of each other, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye. So we have come to the end of another episode of Cognitive. Please do not use this podcast to diagnose yourself. If you think you are having a mental health problem, please contact a licensed mental health professional. Show notes for these episodes can be found at cognitivepodcast, all one word, .blogspot.com. Episodes can be found at iTunes under the name Cognitive Podcast, but also can be found posted next to the show notes on the Blogspot page. Thank you so much for listening. Everybody, stay safe, take care of each other, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.